stuff we've done. So to start off, our mission. Des Moines County Conservation is dedicated to the sustainability of natural resources through land stewardship, conservation education, and by providing quality outdoor recreation opportunities. So that brings us to our third and final mission component, outdoor recreation. And for this one, I'd like to lead off with a question. By a show of hands, actually you don't have to raise your hand for fear of violating a HIPAA policy, so by a show of hands, if you want to, how many of you have experienced some sort of stress in the last, whatever, week, month, year, whatever, all right? Yeah, probably everyone, all right? If you're not showing your hands, you're really worried about the policies. I know this is true. In fact, my guess is a lot of you have experienced stress to the point that it's affected your physical health. Maybe you've lost sleep, maybe you lost your appetite, or you've gotten too much of an appetite, or it's affected your interpersonal relationships with your friends or your family or your coworkers, whatever. Stress is a real thing. The American Psychological Association reports that chronic stress is becoming a public health crisis. It's a crisis. This was back in 2011. Things have only gotten worse. I didn't have time to find newer statistics. Maybe it's an epidemic now, or I don't know, maybe it's DEFCON 5, whatever. But let me give you some numbers to support this. 40 million Americans are treated annually for some form of anxiety disorder, most of which has something to do with chronic stress. That represents 1/3 of all mental health spending in the United States, to the tune of $40 billion annually, with a B, $40 billion. And this is not confined to just adults. This is what I find exceptionally scary as the father of a 2-year-old. These surveys that were conducted found that 1/3 of kids between the ages of 8 and 17 experienced some physical health symptom from stress in the month prior to the survey being conducted. There's this thing, apparently, we could call trickle-down stress-onomics, right? And that's not a psychological term. I made that up. It's copyright Chris Lee. It may not be used without written permission. It's a real thing, though. 86% of kids that were part of this study reported being bothered by their parents' stress. So the stress we're experiencing at work, in our daily lives, with our phones ringing, our emails dinging and everything, we're taking home with us. And it's affecting our kids. It's affecting our families. There's apparently a national stress-idemic. Again, copyright Chris Lee. There is, though, thank you science, some highly effective treatments to be found. And I'd like to share a couple of those with you. One comes from Stanford University, and I really like this study. In fact, they made a video about it, and let's see if I can not mess up the technology here. And see if I get sound.
The rate of urbanization is happening throughout the world today. We recently passed the halfway mark where 50% of humanity live in urban areas. Projections are that by 2050, we're going to be at around 70% of humanity living in urban areas. Along with this is coming a decrease in the amount of nature exposure that people have and the degree to which they interact with natural environments. And then there's a third trend, which is there is an increase in anxiety and other mental health disorders, including depression, especially in urban areas. Has mental health benefits to people and may help buffer against the onset of things like depression and anxiety disorders. For this study, participants went for a walk, either in a natural area, which was a grassland with scattered oaks near Stanford campus, or an urban area, which was the most highly trafficked street near campus. So we also scanned their brains before and after their walks. The participants that went for a walk in a natural area had decreased levels of this rumination or brooding, kind of beating oneself up, than did the participants who went for a walk in an urban environment. This type of thinking is highly associated with the onset of depression. We looked at the parts of the brain that are active during rumination, and we noticed a decrease in the nature participants, but no change in the urban.
So I find that not all that surprising as an outdoorsman myself, that getting outdoors makes you less depressed. Okay, sure. But the fact that they were able to actually take brain scans of these people and prove that scientifically, that the parts of the brain that are active during this rumination stuff that is linked to the onset of depression, I find just amazing that science is actually backing up what us as outdoors people and conservationists already know. And it is just confined to that. In fact, there's been studies all over the world that have found connections to the outdoors having positive effects on our health. Studies from all over the world have found that getting outdoors helps lower pulse rate, it lowers blood pressure, and it improves our immune system. If you look at the most recent edition of Iowa Outdoors, get this magazine, right there in front of it, there's a really great story about how these long-term research studies have found that getting outdoors, being active outdoors, actually increases your immune system such that it helps you fight off cancer. Studies out of Japan that I've read about have found that getting out into the forest environment, in fact, there's a term for it, Shinrin-yoku. It's a Japanese form of treatment, and it's literally forest bathing or taking in the forest atmosphere. Doctors actually prescribe this. There are paths, trails, established certified trails through the forest in Japan where people can go out, and they have found by doing before and after studies on these people that there's been increases in the natural killer cells in our bloodstream to help fight off infections within our immune systems. But then they've also found a higher increase in cancer-fighting proteins within our bloodstreams after spending a mere 90 minutes out in the forest. And they have found these effects last for days, weeks, even months after being outdoors. Basically, what I'm saying here is if the outdoors could be bottled and sold, our competition wouldn't be Xboxes and PlayStations anymore. It would be the pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer and Merck. In fact, our advertisements for getting outdoors might look a little something like this. Again, I got another video for you. Let's see if I can correct this one. All right, a lot of you have probably already seen it.
Do you find yourself longing for the apocalypse? I did. I was looking for a reason to live. Hi. Are you feeling tired, irritable, stressed out? Well, you might consider nature.
From the people that brought you Getting Outside comes prescription strength nature, a non-harmful medication shown to relieve the crippling symptoms of modern life.
Nature's recommended for humans of all ages, and it's great for pets too.
Nature can reduce cynicism, meaninglessness, anal retentiveness, and murderous rage. In clinical studies, nature is proven to decrease work-induced catatonia.
Caution. Nature may cause you to slow down, quit your job, or seriously consider what you're doing with your life.
Cynical, jaded, or emotionally numb, you may need to increase your dose of nature. Do you have trouble being even mildly uncomfortable? Nature may not be right for you. Side effects may include spontaneous euphoria, taking yourself less seriously, and being in a good mood for no apparent reason.
So ask your doctor if nature is right for you.
So that's going to be our advertisement for next year's event here. What we found is that a lot more people are getting hooked on this prescription strength nature idea, getting outdoors. And we're happy to share in that with them. I'd like to share some numbers with you, some numbers. Fiscal year 17, which is just this past fiscal year that ended June 30th, with the previous fiscal year. People camping in our 3 campgrounds, Fort Columbia Station, Walter Recreation Area, and Big Hollow, is up 11%. Nature Center visitation, 16,595 people through the door of the Nature Center. That's a 31% increase from the year before. Shooting range use is up 7%. Shooting range membership at Big Hollow is up 11.5%. We expect all of these numbers to continue to climb. This phenomenon has been going on for, I think we're 4 or 5 years running where our camping numbers have increased steadily. And we expect that to continue, not just because we're doing great things within our parks, but because we're seeing this across all counties throughout Iowa. And practically every county out there is reporting increased park usage, whether it's campgrounds or just day use visitation parks. The state parks are reporting record park usage. National parks are reporting record park usage. The RV industry is as big now as it has ever been, and it continues to grow. It is a $50 billion industry now, the RV industry is. So there's apparently a lot of people really buying into this whole prescription strength outdoors idea. These numbers, this park visitation numbers that we have, and I don't even know how many people we have coming to the parks that we don't actually count people in, but this is the most that we have seen in the 55 years that this department has existed. And these trends just continue to increase. And so we're doing everything we can to meet this growing demand. This past year, we started a project where we began upgrading Big Hollow. Our campground up there, we started back this spring at installing the sewer and water systems to all 32 RV sites. And this is based on public demand. We did a lot of public surveys to determine what was most important to the people visiting our parks, and this was one of them. This spring, we're going to construct a shower house up there, and this phase of the project, the park renovation project, will finally be complete. It's been a lot of years coming. The work on this phase of the project began back in April. I'm happy to report that as of last weekend, all 32 sites were fully hooked up. So we had sewer, water, and electric at all 32 sites. We filled the campground that weekend. I got to be one of the lucky ones that stayed in that campground this weekend, and you know what I saw when I stayed there? I saw my 2-year-old catch her first fish on her Disney princess pole. I saw kids riding their bikes all over the park. I saw families just hanging out. I saw a 10-year-old sitting on her dad's lap, driving his truck back from the boat ramp to the campground at the park road. Now, you know what this means? Clearly it means I need better law enforcement in this park, because that is unsafe and highly illegal. We need to stop that right now. Putting that on you, Pat. But what this means is that we're doing something right, because that dad felt safe enough and comfortable enough to let his kid drive his truck. How many of you remember the first time you got to drive the family vehicle? I know, those memories are things that you never lose your entire life. You know what I did not see? I did not see kids with their faces in video games. I did not see more electronics than humans. I did not see a chronic stress-idemic. I saw a lot of people sitting in chairs next to campfires with big smiles on their faces and s'more goo dripping down their lips. That is not a stress-idemic. Here's how I see it. Nobody gets to the end of life and thinks, you know, I wish I had sent more emails. Nobody gets to the end of life and thinks, I wish I had put in more time playing video games. Nobody sends their kid off to college or their daughter off with her new husband and thinks, you know, I wish we could spend less time together. It doesn't happen. Nobody's Facebook feeds, tied back to modern day, nobody's Facebook feeds are filled with kids playing video games. They don't take pictures of that. What they take pictures of is kids and families outdoors enjoying time together, often in places such as Big Hollow. All right, I lifted this right off of Facebook. So I'm not saying that parks and the outdoors is the miracle cure-all for everything that ails us. But what I am saying is that there's a lot of really great treatment to be found in bike rides, and trail hikes, and time spent with family roasting marshmallows over campfires. There's a lot of really great treatment to be had in just sitting back in that camp chair by the campfire, listening to the cicadas serenade you to the type of sleep that you just can't get next to an alarm clock. There's a lot of value and a lot of memories to be had watching your 2-year-old catch her first fish, or letting your kid drive the truck for the first time. And that's the type of places we're creating. So that's why we exist. And that's what outdoor recreation means to us. Now, before I leave, I want to say one last thing, maybe several last things. These accomplishments, I'm the guy that gets to stand up here in the monkey suit one night a year and tell you all the wonderful, great things that have happened with this department. But I'm not the one that's done it. So before I go, I want to recognize a number of very special people. So I would like all my staff members to stand up, because they're the ones that do this. It isn't me. They're the ones that do this. All right? The board, the conservation board that helps this organization do what it does and sets the direction for this organization. We have several of them here. I'd like them to stand up and be recognized tonight too. And I would be remiss if I didn't emphasize that none of what we do would be possible without the unbelievable support that this department gets from the community. It's the volunteers, it is the community, it's the people that visit our parks that allow us to do what it is we do. And with that, I can only say one last thing, and and that is thank you.